Good morning. Today we'll begin our class on Harappan civilization. Archaeologists trace socio-economic differences in Harappan society by adopting the following methods and technique. First, burial difference in the burial pits, presence of artifact in the burial. Second, availability of the luxury goods. Archaeologists generally use certain strategies to find out whether there were social or economic differences among the people living within a particular culture. These include studying burial practices. At burials in Harappan sites, the dead were generally laid in pits. Sometimes there were differences in the way the burial was made. In some instances, the hollowed out space were lined up with brick. Could these variations be an indication of social differences? We are not sure. Some graves contain pottery and ornaments, perhaps indicating a belief that these could be used in afterlife. Jewelry had been found in burials of both men and women. In the cemetery found in Harappa in the mid-1980s, a burial contained ornaments consisting of three shell rings, a jasper bead, hundreds of micro beads were found near the skull of a male. In some instances, the dead were buried with copper mirrors. But the Harappans did not believe in burying precious things with dead. Another strategy to identify social differences is to study artifact, which archaeologists broadly classify as utilitarian and luxuries. The first category, that is, the utilitarian, include objects of daily use made up of stone or a clay, such as coins, potteries, needles, flesh rubbers, are usually found distributed throughout settlements. If we study the distribution of artifacts, we find that the rare objects made of valuable material are generally concentrated in large settlements like Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, and are rarely found in the small settlements. For example, miniature pot of faience, perhaps found as a perfume bottle, are found mostly in Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, and there are none of these small settlements like Kalibangan. Gold, too, was rare, and at the present probably precious, all the goods jewelry found at Harappan sites. Mohenjo-daro, almost exclusively devoted to craft production, included bead making, shell cutting, metalworking, seal making, and weight making. The variety of raw material used to make craft such as stone, shell, and clay. The shape of the craft were disc shape, cylindrical, spherical, barrel shape, segmented. Some were decorated by incising or painting. Some beads were made up of two or more stones cemented together. Some of the stones were decorated with the gold caps. Techniques of making the beads differ according to the material: mottling, chipping, grinding, polishing, and drilling. Some of the techniques used for making crafts. Chanudaro, Lothal, Dholavira, Nageshwar, and Balakot are some of the craft centers. In order to identify centers of craft production, archaeologists usually look for the following raw materials, such as stone nodules, whole shell, and copper ore, etc. Archaeologists also look for the tools which were used for making craft. Archaeologists look for the unfinished objects, rejected and waste materials. Waste is one of the best indicator of the craft work. Sometimes a large waste pieces were used to make up a small objects. These traces suggest that apart from small, specialized center, craft production was also undertaken in the last cities such as Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. Today we study two strategies adopted to identify social differences among the Harappans are first, burial, how the dead are buried, what artifacts are buried along with it, does help in identify social differences. Second, luxury goods. Archaeologists assumed objects were luxuries if they are rare or made up from costly or with complicated technologies. By the availability of it, we can assume the existence of social differences. For example, towns like Harappa or Mohenjo-daro have large evidences of the luxury goods, whereas smaller town settlements like Kalibangan did not.